Welcome to another week. Welcome to another edition of The Focus TV. Joined as always, we got Octavia Wyatt, Raymond Lyons, Cardell Dudley Jr., Wilson Turpin Jr. And we got a lot to get through tonight. As always, going to talk some college basketball, Wizards, the GoGo. Cardell's going to talk about an upcoming event that will be attending. We got the final regular season Pac-12 segment, and of course, we're going to get started with the always wild and wacky NFC East. So, Octavia, the floor is yours.
Yes, like you said, always wild, always wacky, NFC East, although it's permeating through the entire NFL at this point. But the NFC is never an exception to the rule. It's always something ridiculous going on. We'll start off with the first game that happened on Thursday. Cowboys played the Saints. Cowboys beat the Saints 27-17. Dak Prescott was 26 of 40, 238 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. He had 3 carries for -3 yards. Tony Pollard had 7 carries, 71 yards for 1 touchdown and 2 receptions for 2 yards. CeeDee Lamb had 7 receptions, 89 yards, and 1 carry for 33 yards. And last but not least, Michael Gallup had 5 receptions for 36 yards and 1 touchdown. As you can probably tell, there were 2 notable people missing from those stats, i.e. Zeke Elliott, i.e. Amari Cooper. Of course, Cooper, his first game back in 2 games from being on COVID restricted list. So he was on basically a snap count minimum to kind of get his lungs back. You know how hard it's been for a lot of athletes coming back off of COVID. And then Zeke is still nursing a knee injury. So Tony Pollard got majority of the work on Thursday. It's a little bit weird. It seems like Dak has been a little bit off in his accuracy since coming back from the bye week. Don't know if it still has to do anything with that calf injury he suffered before the bye week. It's just seeming that he's been a little bit high on some of his long balls. Earlier on in the season, he was one of the top quarterbacks as far as completing those long balls, and it's kind of fell off a little bit. Maybe it has something to do with he didn't have his top 2 receivers the last weeks. So maybe he's just still trying to get back into the flow of things with them. But all in all, a win is a win. A lot of reinforcements came back. Like I said, Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb returned from a concussion that he had the previous week as well. And DeMarcus Lawrence finally returned. He wreaked havoc as well as Michael Parsons. It's kind of weird that how quote-unquote bad the defense was last year and how great the offense was last year. It's kind of sort of switching a little bit. The defense is really keeping them in the games. They have 4 interceptions in this game. I said this earlier this week on Sunday. I tried my best to stay up and watch the game last Thursday. Fell asleep before the 4th quarter started, and when I fell asleep, I could have sworn there was no turnovers by the Saints. Woke up the next morning, there were 4. So it happened really, really quickly. Of course, the usual Trevon Diggs was in there, got another interception. I believe that's 9 on the season for him. Watkins got a pick 6, and they were just too much for the Saints. Now, honestly, I expected for them to kind of blow the Saints out. Saints with no Alvin Kamara. Of course, we know that Jameis Winston has been out, and then they made the switch to Taysom Hill this week from Trevor Siemian, which Taysom did well with his legs, but that was about it. He had some good throws, mostly not good throws, but it's a complete rebuild out there in Saint territory, so they'll have to go back to the drawing board next year. But again, the defense was playing well, and I just think the offense just needs some more time to kind of get back in the flow of things. They don't have much time. They have a very pivotal game next week that a lot of people in this area cannot wait for. We'll get into that, of course. They will be playing against the Washington football team next week in Landover, so that should be interesting. If you're not going to the game, stay out of the area. The traffic will be ridiculous. Another team where we should just probably leave them out of the segment every week, except for the week they beat the Eagles, which I don't know what happened, but the Giants lost to the Dolphins this past Sunday. Giants had 9, Dolphins had 20. Mike Glennon started for the Giants. He was 23 of 44, 187 yards and 1 interception. Saquon Barkley had 11 carries for 55 yards, 6 receptions for 19 yards. And Evan Ingram had 4 receptions for 61 yards. They did not score a touchdown in this game. The previous week, even when they beat the Eagles, they scored 1, I believe. So they haven't had a lot of offensive output outside of their kicker, Graham Gano. If you don't know, they made a switch from the offensive coordinator. Jason Garrett was fired 2 weeks ago. And it just hasn't really been that much. Daniel Jones was out this week due to a neck injury, and Mike Glennon had to step in. And Mike Glennon also ended up having a concussion at the end of the game. So he's in doubt to play next week. Daniel Jones is already rolled out. And if Mike Glennon does not start next week, they will be forced to start Jake Fromm, F-R-O-M. I can't say it, obviously. But he just got picked up off the Bills practice squad 5 days ago. So that's not going to be a good look as well. But it was just bad. The Giants only managed to have 2 drives of 33 yards or more. And obviously you can't score. You can't win games like that. Saquon just has not been himself since he came back off of the injury. I honestly really think they should just go ahead and shut him down, because I would rather get him ready for next year than to put him through what is going on in this season. It's no point. But again, they're going to do what they're going to do. A lot of people think that there won't be too many coaches or upper management left from the Giants this year. But of course, Joe Judge is still hanging in there. Gettleman is still there. So we shall see as time goes on. Another reason why I feel like they should just go ahead and let it go. I mean, they play the Chargers next week. The Chargers coming off of a great game against the Bengals that they dominated the Bengals in. Giants, I don't think you want to worry about that next week. Just let Saquon get some rest. Just go ahead and save him up for next year, in my opinion. Another top game that happened this week, the Washington football team played the Raiders, and they beat the Raiders. Washington had 17. The Raiders had 15. Taylor Heineke was 23 of 30. 196 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, and 3 carries for 10 yards. Antonio Gibson had 23 carries for 88 yards and 5 receptions for 23 yards with 1 touchdown. And Logan Thomas had 3 receptions, 48 yards for 1 touchdown. He caught an incredible pass for a touchdown in the game. Taylor Heineke is having a really good stretch. I believe this was their 5th straight game of winning, but his ball still kind of stale on him a little bit. Luckily, in this situation, he threw it to a guy like Thomas, who has a serious vertical and was able to go up and get the ball. But after this game, well, not after the game, but during the game, Thomas also got hurt, and he is basically done for the season. I think it's an ACL or MCL injury, and that sucks for them going on a run that they're on right now and losing him. Also, J.D. McKissick did not play this past week as well, and they won 17-15, but it was very, very touch and go for a moment. Derek Carr, again, is kind of off and on. I feel like the Raiders as a whole has been off and on this entire year. And while, in my opinion, the Washington football team didn't play as well as they played in these past couple of weeks, they did enough to get the win, and that's all that matters. It kept them in the wild card, the final position, 7th seed in the wild card race. So they are still technically in the playoffs as of now. If playoffs were to start now, they would be the wild card. But they still have a lot more to do. It was also officially announced that Ryan Fitzpatrick is completely done for the year, even though we've known that. He's opted to have the hip surgery, so he will not return. So it will be Taylor Heineke for the rest of the year, unless we make a surprise sighting from Kyle Allen. But at the rate that Heineke is playing, I don't think we'll see that, unless barring hopefully no injuries for him. But again, like I said, this is setting up for they'll play the Cowboys next week at 1 o'clock at FedEx Field. And a lot of people are calling this a really, really big game. I honestly feel like the Cowboys should win it hands down. They're more talented. But again, you never know what happens in the NFC East. Inside division games, everybody gets up for them. Just like last week when I said that the Eagles lost to the Giants. You never know with conference games, division games. So it can be anything. And playing in FedEx Field, I just know that the Washington football fans are going to be hyped. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of Dallas Cowboys fans there as well. So if you're looking for a good game to go to, that would be it. Last but not least, the Eagles played the Jets, beat the Jets 33-18. Gardner Minshew was 20 of 25, 242 yards, 2 touchdowns and 4 carries for 11 yards. Miles Sanders had 24 carries, 120 yards, and 3 receptions for 22 yards. Kenneth Gainwell had 12 carries, 54 yards, and 1 touchdown. And Dallas Goedert had 6 receptions for 105 yards, 2 touchdowns. He was 6 for 6 on his targets. Everybody relax. I said this on Sunday. Please relax. This is not Minshew mania or madness or whatever you want to call it. It was the Jets. Yes, he played a great game. He did what he needed to do. I will be honest. Of course, he has more quarterback experience in the league than Jalen Hurts. So his accuracy was, yes, better than Jalen, especially in the last game that he played against. But Sirianni has already come out and said Jalen is a starter for the rest of the season. This Minshew mania can calm down. But that does not stop me from saying that he had a good game. Again, remember, it was against the Jets. Sirianni called 41 run plays and 25 passing plays. So obviously they still ran the ball a lot. This was the most carries in the game for Miles Sanders in his career. Again, with the 24 carries, 120 yards. He did also leave the game with another ankle injury. So that's something to keep an eye on. Jordan Howard has also been out with a knee injury. And seems like Boston Scott had a case of the drops last week. So I'm sure they're a little bit worried on him, which is probably why Kenneth Gainwell got a little bit more play than he did this week. But all in all, it was a great game. Jake Elliott is silently the best player on the team. He was the NFC Special Teams Player of the Month. Did not miss a kick at all. And he is on, I believe, a 15 or 16 kicking streak as far as his field goes. So he's playing well. This was a much needed win to stay in the mix of the playoffs for the NFC. All the remaining games are all division games. So it's going to be very, very important. Also, Jason Kelce also had a knee injury. So luckily for the Eagles, they are going into a bye this week. They will be off next week. They need much needed rest and relaxation to get their bodies back in place. But all in all, it was a great game. You know, the biggest stat that I liked in this game is that in the third quarter, the Jets only had the ball for 70 seconds. The Eagles were able to dominate the time of possession in the third quarter. They only had it for 70 seconds, which was for 3 plays for 33 yards. That was not 33 yards, I'm sorry, 3 plays for 3 yards, excuse me. So all in all, it was a great game. I do believe the defense needs to step it up a little bit because in the beginning, they went 6 for 6 as far as both teams in the red zone and scoring on possession. So every possession ended up in a touchdown. Luckily for the Eagles, the Jets don't have a good kicker anymore, and he missed both of the extra points. So they were able to keep the lead in the beginning of the game, even though they were going back and forth with touchdowns. And they are now 12-0 against the Jets in franchise history. So that's a kind of weird stat as well. But again, they're on a bye. Next week, we'll have just this Cowboys and Washington football game to really dive into. I don't think we'll talk much about the Giants and the Chargers, but we'll see.
I appreciate that. From the college to the pros. Going to pass this on to Keith for this week's Pac-12 segment. It's pretty much championship week in college football all around. So we know the 4 teams going into the college playoff. But Keith's going to talk to you guys about what happened in the Pac-12. He's telling some of y'all about Oregon and what to be wary about. So, again, if you're an Oregon fan, you might want to go ahead and slide to the left. We'll see you. That'll be followed by our first break. Then we get back. Ray will be talking to you guys about the Wizards and the GoGo.
Welcome to another week of Pac-12 football. We did just have the Pac-12 championship, so unfortunately there will not be any more covering the Pac-12 videos, but we are getting into something where I will keep you guys updated on the NFL draft and different prospects to look at, and which ones do I think are sleepers and which ones do I think will be Rookie of the Year potential type of guys that most people wouldn't think of. But let's get into the Pac-12 championship game. Oregon fell to Utah 38-10. First thing I want to talk about is, let's talk about how a couple weeks back I mentioned how Anthony Brown's struggles when it came to passing the football would come back to bite Oregon in the playoffs. Now, whether it was the college football playoffs or the championship that they were in and fell 38-10. I said if he was unable to fix his issues at passing the ball and getting it where it needed to be, Oregon would not succeed as a team, no matter how good their defense was. And boy, how right was I. Unfortunately, he went 13 for 24, 147 yards, 2 interceptions, no touchdown. Now let's break that down. 13 for 24 is not too bad of a stat line for any quarterback, no matter if it's NFL or college. 13 for 24 isn't bad, but I'm going to tell you why. It says a lot. The coaches did not have enough trust in Brown to where they would allow him to throw the ball 35, 40 times. When you lose 38-10, that says a lot about the game. That means you went down a lot, and even when you were down, you still ran the ball. If you only have 24 attempts in a 38-10 loss, that means you did not pass the ball, and your coaches did not have enough trust in you to pass the ball. Now imagine if they played, when they sat at 3, imagine if they would have played the Alabamas or the Georgias or even Cincinnati. It wouldn't have came a good outcome because all 3 of those teams have solid quarterbacks or above average quarterbacks. So now that you see, the running, I've been preaching the running game all season long and how much it helps and things like that. But it can only help but so much. At a certain point, your quarterback is going to have to deliver. He unfortunately could not deliver. He didn't get the ball where he needed to be, which led them to a 10-38 loss. Travis Dye, on the other hand, stayed consistent, 15 carries for 82 yards and a touchdown. He's been like that all season. And unfortunately for Oregon, they have now lost what may have possibly been the best defender in all of college football, in Kayvon Thibodeau, who was declared for the draft. So going on to next season, Oregon is going to have to fix some things. They're going to have to reevaluate the quarterback position. But it's Oregon. They've always been Oregon. I don't see this as a problem for them. Moving on to Utah, Cam Rising, he was 15 for 24, 170 yards, touchdown, and 2 picks. Now, what was the difference in the two? Really wasn't. I guess Utah had a better game plan, and they got out. Utah outcoached Oregon. Tavion Thomas stayed consistent, 18 carries, 63 yards, and 2 touchdowns. You can't even say the running game's the difference because their running games were both good. Devin Lloyd also, I've been preaching to you guys about him all year, had a pick 6. When you watch him in coverage, now, he is a Micah Parsons, but not as polished as he is. This guy is a freak of nature, whether he's coming off the line or whether he's in coverage. I think that's going to be the difference between him and Micah Parsons. When you watch Micah Parsons play, he isn't that good of a coverage linebacker. He is a guy who is tall, fast, so it can be disguised sometimes as to where if he's good or not in coverage. Devin Lloyd, on the other hand, is good in coverage. He's lengthy, he's quick, and he's agile, all of which linebackers nowadays need. He was able to read Brown's eyes. He wasn't able to get looked off. He jumped the pass quickly and did the rest due to his speed. The guy's a freak at the linebacker position. I'm telling you, come combine time, it is very possible that he runs below a 4.2, not 4.2, a 4.42, and can get into the 4.3 range. If he gets into the 4.3 range, I promise you a team will take him top 20. A team will take him top 20 if he gets in the 4.3 range. Just off of that and what Micah Parsons has done this year, and Devin Lloyd has shown how versatile he is. If he's able to be that versatile come combine time, it's no doubt in my mind he gets picked top 20. Now let's move on to Cal defeating USC 24-14. It's not really much to say. This game wasn't a playoff game or bowl game. It got canceled due to COVID a couple weeks back, so now they played it this week. USC is a mess. And yes, they now have Lincoln Riley, and Lincoln Riley is one of the top college coaches, so obviously recruiting won't be that much of an issue, especially when you're in California at a school like USC. It won't be that hard to convince people to come. Nonetheless, this season showed how USC hasn't been themselves. But Jackson Dart has been the light, I guess you can say, in that USC team. He had 191 yards, 17 for 26 passing. So, and he had a touchdown. So it's like he was a bit of light for that team. But losing Drake London affected them a ton. But I think USC will bounce back next year. They'll get a ton of recruits come next year. and they'll be a force to reckon with, as they usually have been. It has been great covering the Pac-12 this year. I will be back next year, hopefully. I'll come to you guys with the draft news. I love watching film for the draft, so let's get into it. Peace.
Welcome back to the Focus TV. I want to thank Keith for knocking out this year's Pac-12 segment as a whole. Like you said, I'm sure we're going to be hearing from him in the coming weeks as well. All right, Ray, the Wizards, if you guys been watching, Wizards Outlook, Wizards fans is it's in a precarious space at the moment. And we appreciate you guys that are tuning in, but they're on the line. But you know what, Ray? I don't want to take up your time, and
they are fed up. They're up to here.
So, you might want to raise your arm a little higher. Go ahead, Ray.
Oh, my bad.
All right. I'm not gonna get too in depth with the Wizards because we spend a lot of time and get really into the thick of it on Wizards Outlook. But for those of you who haven't been watching, they're doing a 3-game skid right now. And all 3 games have pretty much played out the exact same way. Slow start, bad defense, stagnant offense, and turnovers. That sounds like a recipe for disaster, and that's what it's been. Even though the final scores haven't been indicative of how bad the games have been. They were down almost 40 points to the Cavs. And they're down by a lot to Indiana as well. So they got some things to figure out, man. It's it's starting to get a little ugly in DC, man. But it's still early. They still have time to correct these things, and they are correctable issues. But it's just up to the players to turn that corner and get it done. We talk a lot about what's the identity of this team. They're having an identity crisis right now. Like they have nothing to hang their hat on when things get tough, and that's kind of what we're seeing in these losses. They'll have stretches where they can kind of put some things together and cut into these leads, but at the end of the day, they really don't have. It looks like they don't have a concise plan of attack in any area. To start the season defensively, they were really good defending the 3-point line. That's gone away. Teams are hovering around 40% from 3 against them recently. And on offense, when the ball is moving, they get decent looks and they're able to put points up. Right now, the ball is not moving. The offense is very stagnant. They're shooting a lot of threes, but they're not making a lot of threes. So you can pretty much put 2 and 2 together on that one. And their turnover issues are exacerbating all of this. They're getting live ball turnovers that are leading directly to runouts and dunks for the other team. And that kills your momentum. It gives the other team momentum. It gives them confidence. It gets them amped up, and things just snowball out of control. And that's pretty much what's been happening. But yeah, man, it's after the hot start, they've cooled off tremendously. Hopefully they can find themselves again. They're in the middle of a rough stretch. They're going to be on the road a lot. They have, I believe, 1 game at home over the next 8, and that 1 game is against Utah, which is not a fun team to play. So we'll see how they can do, man. If this month don't go right, they can head into 2022 thinking about the lottery. So yeah, man, hopefully they get themselves together. As far as the GoGo, they've been faring a little better recently than the Wizards. They're 6-4 in the season, 2-1 since we've last spoken. Isaiah Todd is starting to come on, man. He's got back-to-back games of scoring 20 plus. He's really starting to show the full array of his skills. I said before how his pro experience to this point has just been kind of all over the place with the G League Ignite experience last year, then coming into this season, playing with the GoGo and spending some time with the Wizards. But it looks like he's starting to get comfortable. He's really just kind of showing all the tools he has in his toolbox, and it's helping the GoGo. It's, on the offensive end, they started the season slow, but they're starting to find a groove now. Over the last 3 games, they shooting 53% from the field, 42% from three, and 73% from the line. That free throw percentage is a little pedestrian, but it's actually improvement from early in the season. Their turnovers are still a little high. They need to clean that up. But their pace has picked up. But what's weird is this they were still turning the ball over this much when they were playing at a slower pace to start the season. So that's really not indicative of anything negative that's going on offense, because their offense is much better, but the turnovers are still high. So that's something they need to kind of figure out. But it's a young team, and they're just really trying to push the pace and get points on the board. So I expect that number to come down. And Cassius Winston is still on minutes restriction, coming back from injury. So they really don't have a steady point guard to just kind of direct traffic. But on the defensive end, they're starting to suffer a little bit. On a positive note, they are keeping opponents out of transition. They're in the middle of the pack defending the paint, but they do keep opponents' field goal percentage really low. They're top 5 in the league in that category. If they start the season a little better offensively, then their record will look a little different, because through the first 6 games or so, they were kind of lights out defensively, man. But the offense just was sputtering. Now the offense is picking up and the defense is sliding off a little bit. So they got to kind of find a balance there. But again, man, they're young. They're working through some things. But the incremental progress is there, which is really what you want to see from a team in this position. Everything's not going to come together overnight. But just want to see them continue to make strides. Coach Mike Williams, that's basically what he's preaching, as well as Amber Nichols, the GM. Just improvement every game, and try to be a little better than they were the previous night. So yeah, man, I think things are starting to take form with the GoGo. Jaime Ekanike, he's been putting together some solid performances. They got some talent there, man. They got some guys that they can cultivate, and who could potentially have solid careers. So yeah, man, I'll just keep an eye on them to see what they can do this season.
All right, appreciate it, Ray. Gonna move on to college basketball. Cardell, floor is yours with GW Men's and Women's.
Yeah, things ain't much better on the GW side of things for the women's on, man. GW women fell to Virginia on Sunday, 62-53, falling to 5-4 on the season. Virginia improved to 3-6. While the game was competitive and winnable, GW, sometimes are their own worst enemy. They turned the ball over 26 times, shot 28% from the free throw line. When you do that, it's impossible to pull out close games. Meanwhile, UVA shot 48.9% from the field, 45.5% from three-point range, and GW, compounded the turnovers and poor free throw shooting 42.6% from the field. But they did shoot 47.4% from deep, which kept them in the game. GW was led by junior guard Nia Locke, who scored a game-high 26 points with 10-17 shooting from the field, 4 of 8 from deep. Fellow junior for Mayowa Taiwo added 6 points on 3-6 shooting, and the game-high 13 rebounds, 7 offensive. And senior guard Armadine Twad led UVA with the team-high 14 points, and Taylor Valladay added 13 points and 5 assists. GW women will take a bus ride through the city to take on Georgetown Thursday at 7 p.m. On the men's side, it is getting uglier and uglier. They fell to Charlotte 86-79, dropping to 2-8 on the season. Charlotte, meanwhile, improved to 4-3. It's the second straight season the Colonials on the fella side have endured a 4-game losing streak. GW was leading 23-17 at the 8:26 mark of the first half, after a jumper from Brendan Adams. Then Charlotte finished the first half on a 24-6 run, 9 points of which came from local product Jameer Young to close out the first half. GW rallied in the second half behind, some strong shooting from James Bishop and Adams, and also freshman Brian Freeman, but it wasn't enough as Charlotte held on for the win. GW was led by junior James Bishop, who posted a team high 23 points on 9-18 shooting from the field, 5 of 12 from three-point range. Grad student Brandon Adams added 18 points to 6 of 15 shooting from the field, 3 of 8 from deep. And freshman sensation Brian Freeman had a monster game, posting 11 points, 8 assists, and 6 steals on 4 of 8 shooting from the field. Charlotte point guard and former DeMatha standout Jameer Young scored a game high 26 points on 6 of 11 shooting from the field, 3 of 6 from three-point range, and was 100% from the free throw line, 11 of 11, while adding 4 assists and 3 rebounds. Seniors guard Clyde Trapp and Austin Butler both added 19 to 17 points respectively, with Trapp chipping in a game high 12 rebounds. The Colonials will face 1-11 Coppin State at the Smith Center. Tomorrow. I'll be in the building covering that game. Yeah, something's going to have to give, man, because wins are getting hard to come by down at Foggy Bottom. And also to keep it going with, my weekly standouts on the college side. For the men's, I'm going to shout out Richmond point guard Jacob Gilliard, for moving in the first place on the NCAA Division I men's college basketball steals list. Gilliard still with 2:12 left in the game and a 60-52 win over Northern Iowa, moved past former Providence guard John Linehan and into first place with 386 steals in his career. This season, Gilliard is averaging 3.1 steals per game this season. If y'all take time to just read the names of some of the guards on the all-time steal list, this is an impressive feat, man. You talking about Mookie Blaylock, Eric Murdoch, whatsoever. It's a long list of just outstanding defensive guards, and for him to be at the top of that, and keep in mind it's a lot of season left, so he could really push that record way out of reach. You know what I mean? It's just a testament to him. For the past 3-4 years, he's been one of the best defensive guards in college, and he's just building his resume to one day. Definitely he'll be in the Richmond Hall of Fame, but also be in the College Hall of Fame. You know what I mean? So once again, congrats to Jacob Gilliard, from Richmond. And on the women's side, and I got to shout out Texas junior guard Leah Matharo. She scored a game high 26 points on 10 of 7 shooting from the field, 5 of 9 shooting from deep to lead 15th ranked Texas over 17th ranked Texas A&M 76-60. The former Bishop McNamara standout was averaging 16.6 points, 3.4 rebounds, and 1.3 assists on 53.8% shooting from the field, and a ridiculous 48.8% shooting from deep for the 6-1 Longhorns this season.
Sheesh, 48.8 from deep. And shout out to Mr. Gilliard. You understand how old I felt hearing Mookie Blaylock and Eric Murdoch's name just now? Not because I was aware, because I was able to turn the TV on at one point. Like, man, that hit. But, like, that's a heck of an accomplishment. Like, jokes aside, like, that's crazy. And it's a testament that stood that long. Like, that's nuts.
I think Linehan broke it. I think he broke it in like 98 to early 2000. So, man, it stood for like that since that time. Since I was pretty much in high school, he broke his. Matter of fact, he broke Eric Murdoch. They both played at Providence, so he came right after a few years after Murdoch and broke his record. So it stood. And then and keep in mind, Gilliard would have broke it last year if it wasn't for the pandemic. You know what I mean? Like, he's been averaging like 3 steals a game the last 2 years. Like, he's a monster. So you got to be careful. And Northern Iowa was actively trying to prevent the record from being on them because he only had 1 steal. Like, every time he came, they just passed the ball, and then he just managed to get it at the end of the game. He just managed to get it, big man. They dumped it to the big man high-low game, and he just sprinted, stripped him, and he got the record, man. So congrats to him. That's a hard-ass record to get. And by the end of the season, he said 386. That's gonna be well in the 400s. It's gonna be hard for, especially no disrespect, these youngers growing up, not emphasizing defense. It's going to be hard for me to see somebody breaking that record.
Yeah, that might have some staying power for a little bit. If he's like you said, if he just stays on his average of 3 per game for the rest of the year, that might sit there for a little while. All right, to end the college segment, Maryland Women's last week they kicked off conference play in the Big Ten on Sunday afternoon against Rutgers. They went up to New Jersey for that one. It was a balanced attack along with timely defense, helped them hold off Rutgers 73-59. It was a 4-point game with 7 minutes left. Maryland went on a 7-0 run to take control of the game. Freshman Cheyenne Sellers made 2 free throws and a turnaround jumper and came up with a steal down the stretch. She only scored 4 points in the game. It just happened at a very critical juncture. The Terps were led by Angel Reese's 18 points and 6 rebounds. Katie Benson and Chloe Bibby added 15 and 14 points respectively. Their ability to get to the free throw line really helped them in this one. They only had one quarter where they kind of really played good defense. But again, went into a little bit more in depth on the recap. It's over on the FocusTV.com. Rutgers, they got a couple transfers that you might want to keep an eye on. Up next for Maryland, they'll be hosting Purdue at Xfinity Center on Wednesday. But, again, that was a really fun game. It was a tough game, and they kept their win streak going in Big Ten conference play, which is huge. But, Rutgers was impressive and definitely worth keeping an eye on going forward, especially later on down the line in the Big Ten tournament. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Rutgers takes somebody out that someone wasn't expecting. On to the 9-4-50 breakdown this week from Jamal Hayward. It's a breakdown of counters off the jab cross. Again, it's a breakdown of counters off a jab cross. That will be followed by our second break. And then, we still got a little bit of show left. So you're watching the Focus TV. Welcome back to Focus TV. Again, want to thank Jamal Hayward for knocking out the 9-4-50 breakdown this week. All right, Cardell, going to pass this on to you before we get the rapid fire. I know you got a high school basketball event you're attending this weekend, so go ahead and take the floor and let everybody know what gym you'll be in this weekend.
Yes, sir. High school season has already started last week, but it's ramping up this week. I will be at Good Counsel. They will host their annual Xavier Classic from Friday to Sunday. 8 teams will battle over 3 days to walk out of the Classic as champions. The opening day schedule will be this Friday. It will begin with the host team, Good Counsel, facing St. Vincent Pallotti at 3:30 p.m. The second game will be Fairfax Christian versus New Hope Academy at 5:10 p.m. The third game will be Georgetown Prep versus Glendale Country at 6:50 p.m. And the final game will be Archbishop Spalding, led by high-flying Villanova commit Cam Whitmore, who's the top-ranked player in Maryland, versus Mount Zion Prep at 8:30 p.m. I'll be there throughout the day, and pretty much throughout the weekend, I have a lot for next week's show on who stood out, results, the whole nine. So just stay with us throughout the weekend, and follow me throughout the weekend. I'll be tweeting out, updates as well. And I guess we can move right into rapid fire. Oh boy. I guess we can start with my favorite school. Man, as most people know in the area, Maryland announced Friday that head coach Mark Turgeon, stepping down. He stepped down effective immediately. They said it was a mutual decision. Who knows what the truth is? But Turgeon had been in charge of the Terrapins since 2011. He signed a 3-year contract extension in April that was expected to keep him in College Park until 2026. He stood to make more than $17 million over the length of the new contract. But, as has been reported last spring, that the buyout was $5 million if taken before May 1st, 2022. Danny Manning, who was hired as an assistant coach last summer, has been named interim head coach for the remainder of the season. Just what are your thoughts on where Maryland is as a program, and your thoughts on Turgeon stepping down, and also what type of job do you think Danny Manning will do? We're going to start with you, Octavia.
I'll say I was kind of surprised, but not kind of surprised. Like you said, he's been there since 2011, and the only other coach that I even pay anything attention to when it comes to Maryland outside of Brendan Freese, of course, is when Gary Williams was there, how long he was there. So they usually keep coaches for a good amount of time. So he did last a while, but I'm not surprised, but I am that it happened in the midst of the season. So I am excited to see what the interim coach does, and I really want to see where they're going to go for their search. What are they looking for? Because we know Maryland men have struggled, the last couple of years. They haven't had a very, very good productive season in a while. And I wonder how it is with the recruiting, if they're losing out on any of the kids that are in the area. So like I haven't delved deep into it enough to know what the actual issue is in that front, but I'm interested to see in what they're going to do on the search. Like what kind of coach are they looking for? I'll be interested to see them get a younger coach, to kind of maybe relate a little bit more to the kids nowadays, to be honest. And just I'm just interested to see how it all works out. But I'm not too surprised. He's been there for a while, and they're probably just looking to go into a new direction.
Right.
Yeah, I really didn't feel any way about it one way or the other, to be perfectly honest. The timing was just kind of weird, and it did seemingly come out of nowhere. But I might be on an island with this train of thought, but it never really felt like Mark Turgeon was comfortable there. I don't even really know how to describe it, but it just felt out of place to me. But yeah, didn't have the most successful tenure. They did get a Big Ten championship, but yet recruiting hasn't been that strong, and the success really hasn't followed. So I mean, I don't know, man. It just I just kind of saw and was like, oh wow, mid-season coach just stepped down. That's it's kind of weird, but what have you, it is what it is. Danny Manning stepping into that role in the interim, it's going to be interesting, man. Hopefully he does well. Who knows if that would lead to him having the position permanently. In regards to their search, there are a couple names out there that would fit here, but I don't know what direction they're going to go in, but it's a weird position to be in, man. And for a team that's that's revered like Maryland is in college basketball, it's odd to see those type of programs in these type of, so it'll be interesting to see where they go. If what I do know is if Danny Manning doesn't have an incredible season, they're not even going to look at him for to be permanent. So yeah, I don't know what type of pressure he's feeling, if he feels any at all. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this plays out.
Wilson.
Yeah, the only thing that was weird to me about it was just the timing. I didn't expect them to, if he was going to leave or for them to part ways, it wouldn't be during the midst of the season. Like you said, and I think Ray alluded to as well, I'm definitely interested in seeing what, as time goes on. I'm sure we'll find out a little bit more about it as to why. But it's a tough spot for any interim head coach, because anytime you're an interim head coach, usually the guy that's there and while they're looking for someone else. And then the other part is I'm interested to see what happens, who's like the criteria for the next possible round of candidates, what have you. Because it's one of those things now. It's hard no matter what program you are these days, to sustain success. And it's another thing when like even harder to jumpstart it and start it from the beginning with the regime and all that. So I mean, I'm just interested to see who they bring in, and I kind of see where Ray was talking about, kind of like with the fit. Never truly felt like a real great, like just natural fit. But yeah, man, I'm interested to see what happens next with it. But it wasn't like super shocking, I guess, news wise when I found out.
Well, for me, Gary Williams cast a large shadow. It's hard following a legend. You know what I mean? It's just hard. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Especially the one thing Gary had over him, it seemed like Gary was intense. You know what I mean? And you can get and he kind of adopted underdog role. Obviously, being in ACC, he inherited the job when Dean Smith and Coach K were kings. You know what I mean? So, and he inherited the job with Maryland damn near on the death penalty after the ball way there. You know what I mean? So, and also he played at Maryland, so he's it's his alma mater. It means more. You know what I mean? Turgeon is a Midwest guy. Played at Kansas under Larry Brown. Coached at Wichita, Texas A&M. He's more of a Midwest guy. And when he came here, it was it just really wasn't a connection to begin with. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, Gary played here. He had a connection here. You know what I mean? So even the assistant coaches had some type of connection here, whether they either grew up playing high school basketball here or they played at a college here, played, you know what I'm saying, a coach or something. They had a connection here. And that's where the DMV is a close-knit community, although at times toxic. It's kind of hard to infiltrate if you from out of town. You know what I mean? So you really have to be nice and to really get on the hump. But Turgeon, when you following Gary Williams, you got to maintain that standard. And then what didn't help was, let's just call it what it is, football being so powerful, they moved to the Big Ten. And the Big Ten is a football conference. There's no connection to the Big Ten here, even to this day. Like, this is a ACC, Big East area, regardless. And Maryland has been in the Big Ten for how many years? And you still don't feel that connection. Just like, when Michigan State came to town, Izzo runs the conference. It was not the same feel as when Duke came to town with Coach K. You see what I'm saying? Like, the rival, it was never a rivalry. It's just no connection whatsoever. So that hurt him. That hurt him with recruiting. I know Gary Williams got a bad rap when he left, talking about, because he then, I guess, catered to a lot of the AAU coaches. He didn't kiss ass or whatnot. Well, in a sense, Mark Turgeon did. Look, it backfired on him. Because as soon as he said no, they want to send certain players this way. And if you're not from the area, you don't have the connections like that, and then you don't get the players. He lost some key assistants. I know early on he had Scott Spinelli, who went up to Boston College. He's the one that brought in Alex Lynn and Jake Lehman and all those guys. Like, Bino was the connection to bring in, who's at DePaul now. He was the guy that brought in all the Baltimore kids. You know what I mean? That's what's been saving them. Because you notice out pretty much Anthony Cowens, you take Anthony Cowens and Melo Trimble away, how many WCAC kids did Turgeon get? You know what I mean? It's just, he been relying on a lot of Baltimore kids, and when Bino left, that pipeline died. You know what I mean? So, it's tough, man. It's tough. And it didn't help when Hunter said what he said last year, about that, which may not be true, we don't know, but he was just trying to stick it to him or whatnot. But look, man, the Twins transferring, Ricky Leno transferring to GW, he lost key transfer that were local products. You got to look at that. And like I said, tournament-wise, he coached 11 years, including this year. I know he didn't finish it, but this was his 11th year. He missed the tournament 5 of those seasons, and he might have been on his way to missing it this year. So he had a good chance a couple times to make a run. I remember years ago with Melo Trimble, they had a mob. They had Carter that transferred from Georgia Tech. They had Diamond Stone. They had the mob, but unfortunately they fell early in the tournament. Then a couple years ago with Jalen Smith and Anthony Cowens, but the pandemic hit. So they didn't even have a tournament. They had a strong chance to go deep with that team. So it was just a couple bad breaks, man. But I think he just got out before he was pushed out, officially. And, you can't knock him. I don't know what he's going to do, so we'll see. He lost his first game, Danny Manny, but, it's just tough, man. It's a tough situation. And obviously everybody got their candidates. I know for a fact he had to be a fool not to look at Mike Jones, who I know he just got to Virginia Tech, you know what I mean? But, Mike Jones is about as connected in this area as you can be, and he can coach his ass off, you know what I mean? So that would immediately give you a strong pipeline to the CAC kids, a lot of kids to come to Maryland and keep them at home, and he can coach. You know what I mean? And he's getting experience with Virginia Tech right now. Some people threw out Juan Dixon name, former great up at College State or whatnot. Somebody threw out another name that may not be connected to the area, but got the connections as far as throughout basketball, and that was Brad Stevens. with the Celtics or something. Our former great college coach, got the NBA pedigree, knows how to connect with the players, develop players because he did it at Butler, stuff like that. So this AD, he got to be thorough. He got to be thorough on who he bring in next because the fan base tired. Let's face it, college basketball around here is pretty much only strong on the women's side. You may have a couple strong years on the men's with the Maryland, and but Georgetown been down for years. GW ain't been the same since the Lonergan situation, man. They was right, but it's college basketball on the men's side has just been it's been iffy. It's been up and down. So, I think this AD gotta be careful who he bring in because this next hire is gonna be tied to him. And if it don't work out, he might be leaving with the whoever the new coach, whoever he hires. So, I'm interested to see for real. We'll see. Next up, unfortunately, news UConn sophomore women's basketball player Paige Beckers will be sidelined 6 to 8 weeks, with a fracture in her left knee that she suffered Sunday. The reigning player of the year had the MRI and CT scans Monday that revealed a tibial plateau fracture. Beckers collapsed with 40 seconds left in the Huskies' 73-54 win over Notre Dame while dribbling the ball up the floor. She was carried off the Gamble Pavilion floor by 2 teammates. Obviously, we're all extremely disappointed for Paige that she suffered this injury. Huskies coach Gina Auriemma said in a statement, it would be really hard to describe how much basketball means to Paige and how much her teammates mean to her, not being able to do the thing that she does do, to be there for her teammates is really difficult for her. We've had players get injured in the past. My philosophy here is I'm not interested in how fast we can get someone back. I'm interested in what's best for them long term. Every decision made will prioritize what's best for Paige and her career. Everyone involved with this program will be there to support Paige through her healing process. Beckers, who underwent right ankle surgery in April, leads number 3 UConn in points per game, 21.2, assists, 6.2, steals, 2.7, minutes, 36.3, and is second on the team in rebounds, 5.5, and blocks, 0.8. She was named Naismith Wooden, AP, ESPNW, USBWA Player of the Year as a freshman. The estimated recovery timeline will put Beckers' return in mid to late January ahead of UConn's rematch with #1 South Carolina. UConn's depth, which looked like a strength heading into the season, has dwindled in the first month of the season. In addition to Beckers, freshman AZ Fudd is also sidelined with a foot injury. She will be reevaluated next week. Junior Aubrey Griffin also is unavailable because of an ankle and back injuries. No timetable on her return has been shared. UConn is 5-1. They return to action against Georgia Tech on Thursday. Ray, we're going to start with you, just obviously, with the situation with UConn, how big is it? And where does Gino go from here? Because, he's dealing with a lot of injuries to key players.
Yeah, it's tough, man. First of all, it sucks because selfishly, I enjoy watching her play a lot. But then in regards to the team, they relied on her heavily. Like, you ran off her stats, and she was playing 36 minutes a game. That's it. It'll tell a lot about this team, how they navigate this without her. They still got some talent there, but obviously losing such a big part of what they do is going to be tough to adjust. But fortunately, they have one of the best guys on the sideline to help them through this. So Sam, it's just going to put everybody to the test. I don't know why she was in the game. It was a wrap at that point. But unfortunately, it happened, and and I'm sure that's a question that everybody involved asked themselves. After she was injured, but yeah, man, that's tough. That's a tough one to deal with. But what I will say is, people are going to be chomping at the bit to play them over these next 6 to 8 weeks with Paige out. Somebody's going to have to step up. A lot of people are going to have to step up. As you said, there's a lot of injuries other than Paige. So yeah, man, it's going to be interesting to see how they deal with this. I see some growing pains happening. but at the end of the day, they still got talent. So I don't expect, some type of I don't expect them to fall off a cliff. But yeah, things are going to get interesting, man. I'm definitely going to be paying attention to how they react to this.
Mr. UConn, where do your team go from here?
Man, we could have just said Wilson. But yeah, I mean, it sucks. It's tough for her to be out, obviously. And like Ray said, I'm sure a bunch of people were questioning why she was still out there. The answer is because they're not that good. It's I think even he had said like the game before that, something about like I just don't like what it looks like when she's not on the floor. He's rather blunt. Some people didn't like that he said it or whatever. But yeah, some people we're gonna find out it's time to earn scholarships. Like it's just that time. Paige isn't there, and we're gonna find out something sooner or later. It is what it is, and it kind of gives us a great window into who's gonna be on that team next year and who's not. But yeah, I mean, the most important thing is that Paige gets better. And for this group, yeah, everyone can't wait to play Wounded. People can't wait. This is the territory. This is what it is. And the good things, they still got a Kristen Williams. You got a veteran over there. But the kids, the rest of them got to come along with it. Like we're gonna learn something about the rest of the team outside Paige. And if the good news is if they come out of it and they're still alive, Paige comes back, it's a stronger team than it was before she left, possibly. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, it's gonna hurt because it's she's one of the better players in college basketball, and she's not gonna be around for 6 to 8 weeks.
I'll tell you.
Yeah, basically everything you guys said. When I seen it happen, that was my first thought. I was like, why is she in the game? It's 40 seconds left. They're by 18. But at the same time, it's just a freak thing. Like, who would have ever thought like something like that would happen and she would be in the position that she's in? It's not like it was a huge contact injury or something like that. So it kind of sucks that that's how she's out for 6 to 8 weeks. But like you both said, it's definitely going to, time for everybody else to step up. Gino is going to have to prove why he's Gino, and he's going to have to coach his you-know-what off for these next 6 to 8 weeks to make sure that they're able to stay afloat. They start big conference play at the end of December. They got a 7-game stretch. So that's going to be key. And like you said, people can't wait to play them now. As you all alluded to, she is in the center of pretty much everything as far as how their team goes. So I'm interested to see on how many people step up and how they make it work. Because like you said, she's leading in so many different categories and for them that other people are going to have to step up, and it's probably going to be more of a collective effort than just one person. And then on top of that, with the other injuries like AZ Fudd and everybody else you mentioned, it's going to be a tough go for them. But as you guys also mentioned, they have a lot of talent. It's UConn. It's always been UConn. But now it's just going to be time for them to actually really show that it's not just Paige Beckers. I'm pretty sure some of them in the back of their head, like it's not just her. I can play well too, and this is going to be the time for them to step it up and prove it. So hopefully, they are able to weather the storm. But I'm very interested to see how things go, especially because their only loss of the season so far is to South Carolina, and they'll be playing South Carolina again at the end of January. So we'll see if Paige is back in time for that game or not.
Yeah, it could be said, why was she in the last minute? I mean, you up 18 with a minute. Like, no one's going to come back in that amount of time. I don't care if you play in an Olympic team. It's not going to happen. Just run the ball out.
Unless Reggie Miller out there.
Yeah, he ain't coming back in the league. That's single digits. But it could be said, man. But, look, man, UConn got a bunch of 5-stars over there. McDonald All-Americans, highly acclaimed females. They just got to play their potential and just, in a sense, warming up. It is what it is. You know what I'm saying? They won't have to warm up eventually anyway. You know what I'm saying? Because, one thing I like about Gino, he don't duck competition. He's going to test you. You know what I mean? Because obviously the conference they're in, once they get in conference play, they're not that strong. So, they just pretty much just destroy everybody to the tournament. So that's why he got to kind of schedule it that way. But you were rated high for a reason. You got signed to UConn for a reason. You got pro potential for a reason. It's just time to show it. That's part of the game. You know, obviously I'm, you know, wishing Paige and AZ to get healthy or whatnot, but you know, they weren't. That before that injury, they weren't looking as good because there's a lot of factors that's into that. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Just the new. You know, I know some people was talking about the new NIL, how would that stuff being handled? Even Gino, like he's figuring it out on the fly. A lot of coaches, if you got those type of players, you're figuring it out on the fly. You know what I mean? And maybe some players were deferred because of that. You know what I'm saying? They got all that. It's no excuses down. You got to play good. You know what I'm saying? Because you know she come back mid-January, you around 500. I mean, you know that's gonna be tough. You know that's gonna be tough to come out of. I know the conference play is gonna be real, but you know. Once you get in the tournament, you still gonna go back to when we played the top teams. We get smacked around, so your confidence is not gonna be as high when the tournament come around. So they just got warming up and just come together. And this will, like Wilson said, this will be a testament to see how truly good they can be. If they come out of this and unscathed and just got 1 or 2 losses or whatnot, then yeah, you could look at UConn like yeah, they're a legitimate threat because now you about to add 2 big pieces and. You know, and the thing about Paige is, you know, she may be rusty, but she's gonna be rested. You see what I'm saying? She gonna be ready to go. She's gonna be, you know, anxious to be on the killing spree. Because one thing about being injured, you come back more of a killer because the thing you love has been taken away. So now you realize you're not invincible. It can be taken away just as quick as it's been given. So now you really about to play every game like your last. So now I think she's gonna come back better off this. So. And more determined. So we're gonna see. But like you know, Ray said, I'm definitely gonna be paying close attention because I don't think Gino been in this type of situation in a minute or if ever, where so many injuries to key players, and on top of that, half the roster is freshmen and sophomore, so they got to learn on the fly. So you know, we're gonna see.
Yeah, I think like you said, this might be a first for him. And this long career might be a first, where there's not a group of veterans in this situation. So it'll be fun. Want to thank y'all for hanging with us this week. As always, don't forget, we'll be back next week. And between that time, get over to thefocustv.com. Follow us on social media mediums at The Focus TV. Wednesday morning, 9 a.m., 9:30, that window. On the Roku channel, all you got to do is on your Roku television or device, just search The Focus TV. And obviously every Friday night, 10 p.m. on DCTV. And get over to dctv.org to check when the show re-airs throughout the weekend. Y'all have a great evening. We'll see you next week.